Just quickly, a little bit about Absco. We've been in business for over 45 years. We're a highly seasoned fire, life safety, and security system integrator. We specialize in highly effective solutions for large, complex, and multi-site environments. Our approach is to match the latest in technology with expert installation and service that supports improved operational efficiency and accuracy of data for you to be able to respond to incidents when they occur. We do cover a full suite of safety and security technology, everything from video surveillance to weapons detection to access control, intrusion detection, and so on. And we have a sales team, some of whom are with us today. Morgan Campbell, our key account executive here, Chad Smith, who is in our Spokane office, Ray Roundsley out of our Fife office, Teresa Gross in our Wilsonville office down in Oregon, and Andrew Fletchall, who's our managing director and also helps with Oregon sales. And today I'd like to introduce to you our speaker. Johnny Cruz is joining us from Motorola Solutions. He is a sales engineer at Motorola with over 15 years of experience in the tech industry. Johnny is a problem solver and a solutions engineer. He really excels at engineering effective solutions for complex customer needs and has, Johnny's been a great pleasure to work with. He has done some training with the Absco team on these products already, so I'm excited to hear him share what he knows about visible firearms detection and gunshot detection with you all today. Johnny, I'll let you take the floor.
Oops, I'm on mute there. Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you everyone for joining this webinar and to allow us to show you some of these new technologies. And just kind of want to start off by saying that I myself am pretty blown away where the technology has gone. Even since I was first in the industry, right? We started with kind of analog cameras, barely going into IP, and now we're doing all this amazing stuff with analytics and AI, right? So that's the whole purpose of this call or this webinar, is to show you guys some of that analytics, and more specifically talking about the visible firearm detection that we have as a solution now. So quick introduction for some of the people that are here and some that are not. Our sales leader, Suzanne Henn, who couldn't join this call today, she's the account manager, so she will be one of your main point of contacts when it comes to getting some resources, maybe looking for some information regarding visible firearms and some of the other Halo stuff we're going to be talking about today. And then Sean McCaffrey, he is a solutions engineer as well, like myself. He's a little newer in the company, really experienced in the industry. He's probably been in the industry a lot longer than I have. So I can see him already picking up on a lot of this stuff, but he will also be a point of contact for you guys. And I myself am a subject matter expert on this product or this solution. So I'm just kind of jumping in here and hoping to inform you guys with a lot of cool stuff. So next slide, please, Jen. So let me just kind of start off with, a little bit of why we started looking to develop this solution, right? And a lot of it has to do with the statistics that we started seeing, where, this is a prime example. There's been almost a 67% increase in gunshot violence or shooter violence since 2018, right? And so a little bit of, go ahead, that's fine. Go to the next slide. So a little bit about the visible firearm product and what it does, right? So mainly it's to detect handheld weapons, right? Whether it's a handgun or a rifle, right? Submachine gun, all those type of things. And so we're trying to detect that. So the main reason, right? The reason why we wanted to incorporate this into our system is for rapid response. We believe that every second matters. So the whole idea of everything we're doing with visible firearms is to get everybody notified, everybody that needs to know about the incident to know and get an alert, so that way they can do something with that information, right? At the same time, we're also putting this through some of our interfaces, And that way they can be verified, visually verified. So that's the other piece of it, right? This is a visual AI. So not only are you getting analytics and alerts based on what the AI sees, but you're also seeing that video as well from the alert perspective, right? So human in the loop is the other piece that we're really trying to incorporate here. And a lot of that is because we don't want to set off the highest alert, maybe even call law enforcement on a false positive, right? Maybe someone's holding a toy gun and that's what set off the alarm. So we want to do some verification before, going through the full workflow and possibly bringing in law enforcement, right? We don't want SWAT showing up for a kid that had a toy gun. So human in the loop is a big piece to this, and we'll talk about that more in detail in some next slides. And so then the other piece is this is built for pretty much any camera that supports OnViv, right? So it doesn't just have to be an Avigilon camera. Sometimes you might have cameras already in your facility that have a good field of view and enough resolution to pick up these weapons. And so we can use those cameras as well because we're doing it at the server level for now, right? So a lot of it is because we want to be able to utilize what's existing. Soon down the road, we're going to be including it in the camera level, but then that would only be our cameras. So there'll be those two options, but that's something we're working on. All right, go ahead, next slide. So just to talk about some of those other systems that we're incorporating, right? This is our integrated security solution. So we have lots of other products, and you'll see all this in the next slide. But some of the main ones is something called DMS, which is pretty much like a digital security operating procedures for people to go through these procedures by clicking some buttons. So these are predefined procedures that they click through in this module, right? And that just makes their job easier. So, if you can imagine a new employee, probably new operator, new security guard, and this big incident happens, like a person with a weapon walks onto your facility, right? Instead of making his job difficult where he has to figure out what to do next and who to call, the system already just prompts him to do all these steps. So DMS is one of those recommended modules that we bring up when we're talking about visible firearm detection because it makes the operator's life easier. Sorry. Let me go ahead and turn this off here. So the other piece is targeted mass notification with another system that we have that's called Rave Mass Notification. So if you want to alert nearby people of an incident like visible firearm, right? Maybe an active assailant in the premise. Now they can all get notified. They know to either go hide, flee from the area, and also staff can be notified this way as well. So it's mass notification, but it could be tailored to who gets notified. You can do all kinds of different notifications. So after the whole event has de-escalated, maybe the person has been arrested and everything's clear now, you can send an all clear. Parents can get notified if you're doing it at schools. Employees can get notified. So all kinds of different things we can do through that mass alert notification. And then the other piece is employing some other systems like access control, right? So within our access control systems, we have lockdown procedures, and that could be triggered through these workflows. So I'll talk about another piece of software called Orchestrate that does all this. But Orchestrate can pretty much tie all these different things, DMS, Rave mass notification, and some of the access control events, and pretty much create some automation there. So please go to the next slide. All right, so this is everything in a nutshell that we do, and there's some other stuff coming right to this whole ecosystem. So on the left side, we have all our video and access control, whether it's on premise or on the cloud, right, in the cloud. And then on the left side, we have a lot of other systems like DMS, what I was just talking about, and Rave, right, at the bottom there, that mass notification. There's also some panic button stuff that's incorporated into Rave that you can utilize as well. But the other pieces like Ally is our incident management system. And then Motor Turbo and Wave are our radio platform. So Motor Turbo, Motorola is pretty much synonymous in the industry for the radio aspect of what they do, right? They've been in business over 100 years doing that, probably a little more, right? So the radio piece is now integrated. If you have radios in your, part of your security team, and now they can get notified through a radio alert. Or if they have Wave PTX is our application level radio platform. So, you can put it on any mobile or smartphone. And so now they get radio capabilities, and now we can send alerts through there, whether they're text message or voice alerts, right? So lots of things all kind of come together because of this ecosystem and orchestrate, sitting in the middle, doing all these things, right? And you'll see some of the workflow stuff through that right there. So next slide, please. All right, so some of the challenges we solve, right? These are the things, and some of the proof of concepts that I've already done with this system have already shown me how much we can really fit into a lot of these things. So high-risk public spaces. We did a POC for a large shopping mall. We did a POC for a stadium and several other locations, museums. And so listening to what they're saying and how things happen and what they expect, right? We've already solved a lot of their issues for visible firearm or an active assailant situation, but we also do a lot of other stuff, right? It's not just going to be visible firearm. We're talking about that now specifically, but there's a lot of other stuff. So high risk public spaces with visible firearm detection, we can see people coming into the facility with a weapon. If they come in with the weapon, people get notified, you know, and then we're talking about the whole ecosystem thing. People are getting notified on their radios, text messages through the Rave mass notification. So lots of stuff we can do there. And then there's this scalable solution piece, right, for situational awareness. So a lot of this is on premise, right, as far as the video and the cameras go, right? They're on premise, but we can scale the information going out of that. So we put cameras in key locations to detect a person coming in with a weapon, and then notification scalable. I mean, we can send that to pretty much anybody, anywhere in the world. So depending on how you want to create those workflows, we can pretty much do it. And so even on the video side, it's scalable, right? We can grow the system based on how many cameras you need and whatnot. So and then the other piece is the emergency response workflows. So that's kind of cool, right? Because now we can alert law enforcement, and now law enforcement is a little more, let's say, tied in with your system. It helps them out a lot more because they could even see video if you wanted them to, right? So they can see video where the active assailant was discovered, where he's going, and now they can do things a lot faster as opposed to doing the first piece, right, which is investigating where they're at or trying to find this person. Their job is a lot easier. Things get done a lot faster. Less people get hurt, right? So that's the whole point to this whole thing. So, all right, next slide. So some of the key points, right? Cloud enhancement, video analytic alerts, detection in seconds, and Motorola Solutions ecosystem, right? We were just talking about all this. So cloud enhance means we're sending all this information to the cloud. So visible firearm detection has a cloud piece to it that does further analysis on some images. So we're not sending video, we're sending some images to the cloud for the cloud AI to do some further analysis and then send you an alert. Then we got the video analytics alert, right? That's just what's built into the system already. So if you have an existing security system, if it's Avigilon, we could do this really easy. If it's not, we can just ingest whichever cameras you feel that we need to, or that you feel would be best to use for this type of solution. But we can do the analytics, right? So right at the camera. Then we have detections in seconds. So that's one question that came up a lot, specifically even during our early proof of concepts when the system wasn't fully developed, right? The round trip time for the alert took anywhere from 10 seconds to 20 seconds, right? And that's pre-deployment. We were doing beta testing. So a lot of stuff wasn't fully baked at that point. Now detections happen on average in 5 seconds. So it could be a lot faster than that. I've actually seen detections happen almost right away within milliseconds. So based on some information we get from you, we can do some analysis and give you an idea of what that round trip time would be, right? But on average should be 5 seconds. And then the Motorola solution ecosystem, right? We were just talking about that. The DMS, the Ally, the Rave, and all those other pieces that we can tie in just to make this easier, right? To notify people. The radio piece as well. So that's the main piece to this. It's a unified ecosystem with real-time, fast analytics and alerts. So just kind of take that home with you guys. Okay, next slide. So target markets, I mean, we can skip this slide, but pretty much anything, right? We can fit in anything. And we've done pretty much every one of these verticals already, hospitals, education, schools, and all that type of stuff. So here's kind of what the workflow looks like, right? On the left, we have the actual detection going on. So person's walking in with a rifle right there, right? So the analytics detects it. It shoots off an alert. And then DMS, which is our decision management system, gets that notification. Now the operator can click through those operating procedures and whatever those operating procedures could be, right? Mass notification, call law enforcement, let security guards know, lock down some doors, right? Depending on where the location is. So that's what DMS would do. That goes into orchestrate based on the buttons he's clicking. That would go into orchestrate and then route to those subsystems, right? So access control is one of those subsystems. We triggered that lockdown. And then Rave master notification is another subsystem. So based on one of those buttons he clicks, it goes through orchestrate, hits Rave master notification, and then it sends out a notification. And that could be text messages, emails, phone calls, right? An automated phone call. And there's some other stuff in mass notification world, right? And in that industry that they can do things to talk to each other. And so there's digital signage type solutions where you can set up alerts on digital signage or set off alarms, right? So there's lots of things we can do. This is just one example. Okay, so next slide. This is a little more geeky, right? If you actually want to see the data flow, this is kind of what it looks like. I'm not going to go too deep into this, so let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And so this is DMS, right? And just we're really touching on DMS as part of this solution because of that whole piece to it, right? If you have an incident like a active assailant, you have to have some procedures in place to action or deal with that scenario, right? It can't just be a detection and then you figure out what to do afterwards. So this is one good way to do all that in a very easy workflow, right? Or a really easy type of module. So you can go through all these prompts and just action on everything the prompt tells you, right? So makes your job a lot easier. You can do this within ACC, but it won't be in this fashion. ACC is going to be very, let's say, ad hoc. You're going to kind of figure out your procedures afterwards, but this DMS just puts it all in front of you. So that's the main reason we bring it up, because these incidents are pretty high level incidents, right? So, okay, go ahead and to the next slide. So this is what it would look like in our video management software, or what we call ACC or Unity Video 8. So when an incident comes on, right, we have something called focus of attention. They would get a video alert, right, with a red banner, so they know this is high level alert. And then they see some information on the what we call the kind of like the hexagons there. It's bright red. If they hover over that, they can see the camera, but they've already gotten a video alert. So depending on how many of those hexagons are going into the red color, right, then you can hover over them and see all the different locations. So people walking in with weapons. We also do not alarms, but what's called like unusual activity detection. So a weapon is unusual, right? They shouldn't be walking into these locations with a weapon. So you get that as well if you're not doing the alerting. But we use the alerting to send it into the other systems, right? So when we create or deploy these systems, we'll create some alarms, and then that's what's being used to send to the other systems. So, all right, let's go to the next slide. This is just some other pieces of our alarming module. So this is just another way to look at it. Let's go to the next slide. Don't really need to go too much into that. When you need to review video, we can review video based on the event object attributes, and then we're looking for verified visible firearm detection. So we can do searching capabilities. The object that has the weapon, or the person that has the weapon, gets highlighted yellow in the bounding box, right? So usually the bounding boxes are blue, but for this particular scenario, because it's an alarm or an unusual event, it gets highlighted yellow like that. So searching for people that are holding weapons is really easy. It highlights it for you, and specifically if there was a lot of people in that scene, right? In this particular scene, one person, but imagine a full place right there. It'd be really easy to find that. So that's just kind of what we do in the back end. All right, let's go to the next slide. Some more ways to search. So there's alarm searching, and depending on how you name the alarm, you can search for this specific alarm. So that's all part of the system, right? Searching, exporting, keeping records, right? So that's just going to be all inclusive when you get this system. So, all right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so let me go ahead and show you guys this in real time, right? And let me go ahead and share my screen. There we go. And Jen, let me know if you can see my screen okay.
I see it.
All right. So let me switch over here. So we were looking at these systems all throughout that presentation. I have it here in one screen. So the top left side is the video management software. This right side is what we were talking about DMS. And this bottom left portion is what's called orchestrate. So let me just kind of talk about this really quick since we're here. Orchestrate, again, is the workflow management tool. And so based on something happening on this far right side, triggers all these other events. So I'm going to go ahead and full screen this because I know it's kind of hard to see. So let me zoom in a bit. So looking at this, we have this active assailant incident that's the trigger that can then set off all these different events or actions, right? All these different subsystems. So again, anywhere from rave, wave, ally incident management, some radio alerts. So we have these alert Unity Motorola workflow endpoints. And so this is kind of a blown out of proportion workflow. They're not usually going to look like this. This one's just a lot of people adding stuff and kind of a good way to see how complex this can get. We can trigger all these different things. Usually it's one or two different things connected together, like this one, and that's about it, or this one and two other ones, and that's about it. But this is blown out of proportion. We can do really complex things. So if you wanted to automate some stuff, this is the way we do it, right? Through Orchestrate. So let me go ahead and get out of here. And so here's the video side. So I'm going to go ahead and trigger some video with a person walking through with a weapon. So here we have an active assailant. He's walking through the field of view. I now have an alarm here that I can expand, right? He's highlighted yellow, walking through the scene. And so because of him doing that, the system has now created an alert, and that's been pushed into DMS. So you can see him over here as well. So if I expand this video, you'll see him walking through there as well. Whoops, let me go back. And so now we can do some stuff, right? What did we do in this incident? We've received the prompts through DMS, what we can do, right? So here it is. And it's kind of asking me, let me full screen this as well, because it's also hard to see. So I'm gonna just open this up. Right, so it's bringing up some video. It's telling me what kind of incident, right? And I can bring up the cameras that I need, right? So if I close the cameras up, say the incident came like this, I can click VFD and it's going to bring up that camera. The next piece, right? There's the assailant walking through. This is the incident happening. I can verify, is he holding a weapon? Yes, he's holding a weapon. I can see it there. Then it's asking me, can you visibly verify the threat? I'll go ahead and click yes, right? And it's prompting me to do the next step. So now trigger an automated response plan via Orchestrate. I can do an active assailant. I can do perimeter breach, evacuate, shelter in place. In this case, I'm doing active assailant. So I'll go ahead and click that. Because I did that whole workflow I showed you a little earlier with all the different things wired up together, that all just got set off. So I'm going to go ahead and share my phone with you guys here on this screen. So there's my phone. I have Wave PTX, which is this bottom notification. So it's letting me know there's a visible firearm detection in the scene. And there's also a text message coming in with a suspect last spotted in building 1, second floor. Whoops. And so I'm getting some information. If I go back into my Wave PTX platform and I go into the notifications, here's all the different text messages, right, that I've gotten from that workflow being triggered, right? Obviously, we're demoing this, so we're getting a lot of this, but this is what you would receive in a radio mobile application. I don't have a radio with me, so I wouldn't be able to show you guys that. But also from here, because I've gotten the notification, I can go ahead and go into my people or groups and now send out a radio alert like, hey guys, we got an active assailant in zone 1, floor 1, building 1, floor 2, right? So a lot of things get done a lot faster because of everything working together. So let's go back really fast. Oops. So we're here again. So I've done this active assailant. Law enforcement has come. We've called 911. They've come in and arrested the assailant, right? So I could go ahead and click done. Are you ready to return to normal conditions? Yes, he's been arrested. I'm going to go ahead and click yes. And then now I can do release the lockdown. So because I clicked that active assailant trigger, I've also done a lockdown. But once I click this release lockdown, I'll click that and do an all clear as well. Then mass notification, like the text messages I was showing you earlier, goes out saying there's an all clear, you can stop worrying. The person has been arrested. The lockdown has been released. And now we're back to normal conditions. So now you see how easy this is. I'm just clicking buttons. I don't have to go and search something in another system. I don't have to go into an access control system and try to figure out how to lock it down, right? Everything's done by clicking through buttons because of how we're doing this whole ecosystem piece. The one thing that I did want to bring up, because the lockdown piece is very, very seems very useful to a lot of people, right? We can create lockdowns based on location. So right now we're just locking down one door, but say the person walks in through a lobby, right? We can lock down the lobby, or if they walking in through a back door, we can lock all the doors in the back so they don't have any access through any of those doors, right? So now you're kind of locking them in to a place where he can't go any further, right? So that alone will stop more casualties from happening, or any casualties, right? If we can avoid it, this is one way we can do it: locking down doors. And then we can set alarms based on doors being forced open, right? So if we lock down a door where we don't want him to come through, and he shoots through the door, whatever he does, right, kicks the door down, then we get a door notification, and now we can kind of track where they're going along with the video stuff, right? Because I can click on cameras and then bring the video up based on which cameras I click. So there's the maps side. So the whole incident response and dealing with the incident it's just a lot easier done through all these interfaces. So, all right, let me go back. Let me kind of go back to this piece. Whoops, and I have to minimize that so I show it. So we've had all this stuff happening, right? So this is all based on visible firearm detection. We're doing it all based on seeing a gun, but the other piece to this whole presentation is the gunshot detection. So let me just kind of talk about that. And if you don't mind, I can share my screen right here. I have the presentation up, might be easier.
Sure.
So let me go down. Yeah, let me go down here. And so we have something called Halo, right? And so Halo is a pretty cool tool, something we can utilize for environmental type of analysis, right? Air quality, but it also has audio analytics. So that's one of the key pieces, right? So this is kind of what the Halo interface looks like. I'm going to kind of skip through a lot of stuff, right? Vape detection, vape masking detection, spoken keyword alerting. So if someone says help, or help plus another keyword, I'm not going to say it because I'm going to trigger the Halo right next to me, then we can now do that whole workflow I kind of showed you, but for that specific scenario. So maybe they spotted a person with a gun and then they say help plus the keyword, that alert would go out and that whole workflow gets kicked off again, right? So that's one way of doing it through that. Now there's the gunshot detection. So if a gun gets fired, that concussion sound, right, now gets analyzed by the Halo. And we can also do it at our cameras, right? So we have some cameras that can do that as well, and I'll show you that towards the end. But the Halo would detect that and then do the same thing, set off this whole workflow, radio alert, mass notification, or just alert somebody, and then they can trigger all those other things to happen, right? So that's just part of Halo. Halo is this pretty cool device. It's not a camera. So the other cool part is, I mean, since it's not a camera, you can put it in locations where you otherwise wouldn't have access to putting video cameras, right? A lot of this is like bathrooms, right? Or locker rooms, right? And depending where your type of facility, there might be other types of locations that you can't put something like a camera. So having this in that area can potentially pick up somebody doing something bad, whether they're using a gun or, we have newer systems that detect people. So if maybe the person shouldn't be there, you now have other actions you can do and potentially avoid something like this happening, right? So lots of tools. So here's the other piece, the aggression analytics. So if someone's yelling, people are yelling at each other, maybe things are escalating. The Halo will also detect that, as well as the camera. So pretty much everything except the vape and the vape detection is something we can't do at the camera level. That's more this Halo sensor because it's also an environmental sensor, but everything else like aggression, gunshot, and all that stuff will be triggered. So within ACC, we use something called the point of sale engine, and that sends text. So the Halo will send a text transaction into our system, and then based on that, we will read the text and figure out, hey, this is an actual vape, gunshot, aggression, whatever type of event, and then create a workflow based on that. So the other piece, right, we're talking about the cameras. So now the cameras have gunshot detection. So this is our H6A camera line. And these aren't the only cameras, but these are the most primarily used, right? The bullet or the dome camera. And based on these cameras, we can do gunshot detection up to 100 meters. So they have really good audio sensitivity. And there's all these other type of alarms, right? Screaming, glass breaking, car alarm, smoke alarm, dog bark, loud noise, ultrasonic panic alarm. This one's kind of cool because if you have a silent alarm that someone pressed, the camera would pick it up. That could also trigger the workflows, right? So just lots of different ways we can trigger stuff. So there's a subscription Actually, at one time, not this one's not subscription. Sorry, VFD is. There's a Cam AA Gunshot license that gets added to the camera, which opens up gunshot detection. That's the only one that requires an additional license. Everything else is comes with the camera, right? And so just because the way gunshot it's very sensitive, we got to kind of do paper trail to all that stuff. So that's why it's a license. So okay, so that's the license piece. That's pretty much it. But let me kind of stop here and just talk about a couple other cameras. So we have some PTZ cameras that also have the audio analytics, and pretty much anything that's going into the H6A camera line will have these audio analytics. So now you can also do this workflow. And what am I looking like for time? I think we're just out, almost there, right?
Yep, you're good.
So I'm pretty much at the end here, guys. I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and stop there and open it up to you, Jen, or put it back to you, Jen. Let's see if maybe there's some questions or anything else that we need to do here.
Yeah, well, we'll go ahead and open up to questions. We do have a couple questions that came in on our chat. So let me pull those up here.
Yeah.
I have the first one. Wow, Ryan has a lot of questions. This is awesome, Ryan. Are there licensing requirements to utilize the AI function in the VMS?
So yes. So visible firearm does require another license, and that one is a subscription license. So it's a 1-year license, right? And partly because we're using a cloud analytic to do some additional work on that video to detect that weapon, right? And reduce some false alarm or the false positives that could happen, right, with just standard analytics. So yes, that's why there's a subscription, and it is an additional license, and one per camera, pretty much, or one per channel.
Okay, let's see. He also asked, are system administrators able to restrict access to this AI function within a select user group?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And we're pretty much role-based access. We like to approach least privilege first. So you don't give somebody access to it unless you want them to. And so yes, that's part of it. Yeah, the analytics and searching, right? Or receiving alarms as well.
Cool. And then he's asked, given that AI is being driven on the server side, what is the maximum number of cameras per server that can run this feature before functionality is?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I'm glad you asked that. So your mind's in the right place. So we have a matrix that shows you the limit of each NVR, just because we have, I think, like a dozen different NVRs that can do this, right? So depending on the processing power of that NVR, that's the amount of analytics or visible firearm detections it can do. Let me see if I can bring it up. But we can go to the next question and then I'll bring it up. But yeah, there's a guide for that.
All righty. And then also, what is the MSRP cost of a POS license?
So point of sale, geez, I don't know that off the top of my head. I mean, maybe we can get back to them with MSRP pricing. Yeah, I just don't have the price sheet in front of me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Any other questions that folks have out there?
And while we're waiting, I'm almost there. I'm about to show you the analytics piece. What does what, or what supports what. So here we go. Go ahead and share my screen one more time for you guys. Here we go. Or, well, not one more time, however many times. So, so here's all the different. Sorry, let me kind of zoom in this way. So here's all the different types of NVRs we have, right? So mainly it's the AI NVRs that will do the visible firearm analytics, and there's one more down here called the ENVR2 Plus. So if we scroll kind of like where is it? VFD, right? Here's the column with some VFD. So classified object detection, appear and search, plus visible firearm detection, right? You have to have all these other things turned on for visible firearm to work. So for this particular AI NVR, which is one of the larger ones, we can do up to 30 cameras. Then the next step down, we can do 15. And then at the standard NVR or the standard AI NVR, we can do 20. And then once we go into the value, we can do depending. Well, so for the value, we have to have an additional analytics kit. Those can do 3, 8, and 5, right? Based on what analytics kit we have on those. And then the ENVR, which is a really small appliance. It's I would say the size of, I don't know, kind of a book, right? Pretty much the size of a book, maybe a little bit bigger, right? So that one can do some too, and that can do up to three VFDs, right? So if there are scenarios where you don't need a lot of cameras, and again, we want to pick and choose the cameras. We can't do it across all the cameras just because there's some guidances, right? We got to follow as far as resolution, field of view, and all that type of stuff. So sometimes 3 is enough, and there's been scenarios where we were doing proof of concepts. 3 is all they needed, right? So we used this small NVR and added that into their system, and that was enough. But if they needed more, right, then we'd go to these larger NVRs and we can do up to 30. We could even stack these NVRs. So if you needed more than 30, we can stack a few NVRs, get you up to 100, right, or more. And so, yeah, depending on what you need, we can build it out.
Nice.
Cool.
Any other questions from? Oh, I see one here. Yeah, this is. I mean, this is fairly new stuff. That we know will continue to improve, right? You guys are always looking to,
Yeah.
Continue to improve it. But do you have any current data on the accuracy or rate of false positives?
So it varies, right? And a lot of it has to do because of field of view is changing, right? So based on the field of view, it can range, but it's usually pretty accurate. So before in the beginning, I mean, it wasn't as accurate. We were getting a lot of false positives. So I think it was like a 30% amount of false positives. These days, with proper kind of location of the camera, those type of testing that we've done, we've gotten down to, I think, anywhere from 5 to 10% on the false positives. So it is a reduced amount. Right. And so the one location where we got a ton of false positives was like the entrance of a shopping mall. So you had thousands and thousands of people walking through. And I think because of the sheer volume of people that there was more false positives. They were always holding like an umbrella, a phone. And it's funny. People were holding phones like they were guns. So it was kind of mind boggling to see all those things as well. Right. So we got more false positives. So field of view matters a lot. Where you put it matters a lot. But we can get it down to about 10% and really good scenarios down to 5% false positives.
Nice. We have a couple more questions here. Let's see. Do I have to have an AI NVR even with an Avigilon system, or can I use an analytics kit on my NVR?
So good question. Yes. So for now, we need the AI NVR, right? Regardless if you already have an existing Avigilon system. If you have an existing AI NVR, we can utilize that as long as there's some space for the analytics. But and in most cases, we're just adding another AI NVR, and then that will do the analytics for you for the meantime, right? Until we get it at the camera level, the cameras will eventually do it, and then we won't need an NVR for our cameras. If you use third-party cameras, we'll need that AI NVR.
Another question, are licenses tied into your server directly or to the site itself?
Good question. So I'll say the site. And so a site could be one NVR or multiple NVRs, right? So if you have separate NVRs that are considered separate sites, you didn't merge them together, right? You didn't do the whole clustering piece to it, then it's just per site, right? One NVR per site. So it's per site. If you have clustered NVRs and you add VFD, it's whatever all those NVRs on that site. So I'll leave it at site, and that just depends how many NVRs you have on that site.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Also, it says, does licensing, let's see what, I'm sorry, my question just moved a little bit. Is licensing required for each piece of the system?
Yes. So the VMS itself, right, for it to run, you need a device license. So that's just adding cameras and having, if you're using our cameras, they already have analytics that comes with it. When you want to add VFD, it's an additional license. So you have the VMS license per channel, right? And depending on what cameras you have, they might have some features. And then to add the analytics or this VFD analytics specifically, then yes, you need an additional license. If the camera has gunshot detection, so let's talk about that as well. For our cameras, you need an additional license. For Halo, the Halo device doesn't need an additional license, but there is a license for our software. So depending on what we're doing, there might be some additional licenses, up to 3, I believe, is the max. And so we can walk you through that. Like if you get to that point, we can make sure you get a good bill of materials just so you're covered as far as licensing goes.
Gotcha. And it says then too, do you support custom built servers? Do you have a recommended build spec? Excuse me.
So no. So custom servers, as far as just for our VMS alone, you could use off-the-shelf servers and add your own GPU, right? Your graphics card. There's some recommendations that you have to follow, some guidelines you have to follow for that graphics card. That's just for the VMS. When it comes to visible firearm detection, the only hardware that works right now is the AI NVRs. There's no off-the-shelf NVRs that can do that, right? And a lot of that is because the operating system itself, we don't distribute it, right? That's purpose built. So we're making those appliances. We don't freely give out that that kit or that operating system. So yes, you do need an AI NVR, regardless if you have your own servers. The VMS could run on its own server, and you can add some cameras there, but VFD has to have the AI NVR. Hopefully that answered that question.
All righty. Any other questions that anyone has?
Yeah.
Get into
Maybe as things are coming up, I do want to mention a couple of things I might have not brought up during the presentation. So all these AI, all the analytics are built in house. Like we do that from the ground up. We don't reuse any libraries, right, or anything like that, or we possibly utilize some libraries, but we don't utilize like YOLO, right? That whole AI algorithm. We don't use that. We build our own algorithm from the ground up. As far in even training the algorithm. So we have our own set of images that we use. And so because of that, we tailor this thing out really well, right? We're not using a general purpose AI. We built the AI just to do that. So it makes it a little more efficient. I think that's worth noting.
Let's see. So, and I know we've talked a little bit, let's see. Oh, Ryan asks, is ACC able to display real time from a Halo sensor or only able to communicate alerts?
Absolutely. And I'm so sorry. You know what? It was in my list of things to show you guys. So if you don't mind, I'll do it really quick. Right? And that way you can see it real time. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you my where to go. This piece right here. Let me go ahead and expand that, right? So I have a Halo unit. I have the keyword. So if I go help emergency,
emergency declared,
right?
Security notified.
And then this alarm
Emergency
just went off.
Security
I have the
notified.
Halo doing an audible alert, and then I can go through the video. Here's the other camera associated to that alert. So yes, it's real time. So if I was vaping right now, this thing would go off. Yep, it's all real time.
Cool.
Cool.
Let's see, anything else here we have? I don't have anything else in the chat. I do have a question that I think someone sent me earlier, and we kind of talked about this, but I just want to make sure everybody's clear. Do you need to have Rave or the DMS to be able to reap all the benefit? I mean, to reap the benefits of the.
I got you. Yeah. Good question. So no, you don't have to have DMS or Rave. We can do it all within ACC, but we recommend to use DMS because of that standard operating procedure, or we want to use Rave because of the mass notification. You could also do some collaborate stuff in there as well, but I mean, you don't. It's not required. It's just recommended. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. Awesome. And I know if not all the questions might come up now, if questions come up later, feel free to reach out to us. We don't mind answering questions ad hoc as well. So I'm pretty sure our contact information should be provided, or if not, we'll figure out a way, and then you can ask us questions as well. Yeah. So don't worry about that. We'll still be around. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And your Absco account executive would be happy to help get a one-on-one with our Motorola folks to help. Oh, and it looks like we have another question that came up here. What network settings are required to be changed at the server to communicate with the cloud infrastructure?
Oh, good question. Yeah. So there's a piece built into the server called the web endpoint. And so basically that has to be turned on if it's off. Usually it's on already. And that web endpoint would communicate to a cloud instance, right? You can create an organization for yourself, and through that organization, the cloud information or all that alert information kind of funnels through that cloud instance, right? So it's a private cloud instance. You create your own. We don't make one for you. You create your own. You add your own administrators, but the information will flow through there into Orchestrate. So it's done through that, what's called Avigilon Cloud Services, or you might see another name called Unity Cloud Services, either one of those.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else from anyone? We're a little bit early finishing up, but so we can take another
Awesome.
question if anyone has one. But I will let you know that I will be pulling the recording together and getting that along with the PowerPoint slides. And I have some fact sheets and data sheets and good information from Johnny to share out with everybody after the webinar. So I'll make sure to send that to everyone here over the next couple of days, and make sure you get all that information that you can share with your coworkers. Please don't hesitate to reach out to your Absco rep, and they can put you in direct connection with Johnny or Suzanne, our folks, our Motorola partners, to get more information or to schedule a one-on-one meet to kind of talk about the specific needs of your facilities and organization.
One thing to mention, just to dovetail off of what you're talking about there, Jen. So we could also do proof of concepts, right? So if you have a test scenario you want to see live and you want to actually set up a system, we can do proof of concepts as well. Those take a little longer, right? Because we have to acquire the equipment and whatnot. So just kind of keep that in mind. But yes, we can do that.
Awesome. Awesome.
Just as a comment, there's a whole host of information that's been provided today, and Ryan, thanks for the questions as they've kind of come through. That's been really great. On a side note, there was some questions around licensing, and we all know and understand that there is commonly cost associated with licensing. There's a whole host of different systems here, and each site is certainly going to determine what you need and what you don't need. You may not need all things, but as an example, licensing doesn't always mean cost. Just to put that out there, Orchestrate is a product, as an example, that comes at no cost. And that system really acts as a conduit. So you can have a defined response when you've got security personnel or school administrators or whatever the case may be, depending on the location. I just think it can be really helpful to, a product like Chaos help you to limit, or a product like Orchestrate to eliminate that chaos when you're in an emergency situation. So just a comment there. Thanks
Good
again.
point, Sean. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. That I think is a really cool piece, that Orchestrate is not an extra charge and has the capabilities of pulling all the different pieces together.
For sure.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. We really appreciate you coming and all of your questions. That's what makes this really valuable to everybody, is hearing what things you want to know about these products. So we sincerely appreciate your engagement. Like I said, I'll be sending out the information, and keep your eyes and ears open. We will have another webinar coming up in another month or two. So we'll be sending out information about that as soon as we finalize the details. I'm getting pretty excited. I think we've got some fun stuff coming up.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Johnny and Sean, for joining and presenting today. Appreciate it very much. And everybody have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.